Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Jones out of the gun. Empty set. 3 receivers stacked to the right side. Jones looks left initially. Throws that way to Warren inside the 5. Stretching for the pylon. Touchdown! Tyler Warren. His first receiving score in the NFL. Under center goes Jones. And they give it to Taylor, sweeping out. He's around the 5, crashes in, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Best back in the league right now. Credit to him, credit to the O-line. You know, that first one, obviously Q pulling around there. And then the other one we scored down in there tight.
Out of the gun goes Jones, sweeping left. Taylor cuts back at the 5 into the end zone. He dances in again. 3 of them today. 3 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor.
We had a little pulling center on with Bort, and Bort opened up the hole right there. It was a great job by the O-line, and he stretched and cut that thing back up in there. So it's everybody. It's everybody. It starts up front with those guys, but he's just seeing it well. He's running, hard, patient, great vision, great burst, and he hits the home runs.
Taylor in motion to the right. Jones backs to pass. Late blitz. Jones flushed out of the pocket right. Throws into the end zone. Yes, touchdown, Michael Pittman Jr. What a catch.
I thought it was great complimentary football, back and forth, all 3 phases. Shaggy getting the punt block there was huge, getting the takeaways by Mackay. Latu, obviously Grover getting the tip there was huge, and then scoring, 6 times, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns by the offense. It was just great to see. I think everyone got involved.
That's how it sounded yesterday. Matt Taylor on the call for the Colts Radio Network. Shane Steichen talking about the Colts' dominant win over the Las Vegas Raiders. And a couple of things that were interesting as I was watching that game and just kind of observing and making parallels. And there is plenty to discuss over the course of today. We have a show announcement to make. We have news happening within Indianapolis, aside from the Colts, obviously, over the weekend leading up to the game. We have Ball State with a huge win. We have Indiana getting set for a top 10 matchup. I mean, there's a ton to talk about. The Pacers were running all over the place in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Guys coming off an Achilles showing a little bounce, and I'm not talking about Tyrese Halliburton. There's plenty to get to. But the topic number 1, I'm going to say it right now, and I want the kids in the back to stand up so they hear me. Thank you, Eddie Garrison. The Indianapolis Colts, through 5 games, the Indianapolis Colts, through 5 games, may be the most consistently complete team in the National Football League. The Indianapolis Colts at 4-1, and yes, you could make the argument that they are a dropped touchdown from 5-0, but they also are, if you take that one, then you've got to consider the weird Denver fluke penalty on the field goal, so it balances itself out, but they are 4-1. But yesterday I'm watching that game, and I'm watching it early, and I'm watching the way the Raiders, who didn't have Brock Bowers, admittedly, wouldn't have made a difference. But the way they were able to put Genty in different positions and bounce him around, and I said out loud, I said, this guy's a lot like Tyler Warren in the fact that you can put him anywhere. And then you have Tyler Warren that they can put anywhere. And the sign of a good team, the sign of a good team in the National Football League is not the fact that they are winning games that they're supposed to win. Not even the fact that they are bludgeoning teams that they're supposed to beat. The sign of a good team is the fact that they're able to get creative and be experimental offensively and put guys in different positions and try fun plays and throw to offensive linemen and have their tight end throwing passes and doing all of those things. That's the sign of a good football team. And as I'm watching yesterday and I'm watching that game, and we can get into the fact that good football teams win by getting things jump-started on special teams with a block punt. Good teams win because they have a back, as you just heard, that they can have score multiple touchdowns by using one of the best guards and pulling him in football. Good teams win because they have a quarterback that is not turning over the football. The sign of a good team is when you had a quote-unquote quarterback controversy at the beginning or a competition at the beginning of camp, and now the only way that one of those quarterbacks is getting on the field in October is because the team he plays for is up 30 in the fourth. Those are signs of a good team. But I'm watching last night after the Colts game, after I'm kind of going over everything that I'd seen and observed and watched from up there in Lucas Oil Stadium. And I turn on and tune in to the Buffalo-New England game. And I'm watching it, and I'm saying to myself, Buffalo's going to win this game because I don't think New England's very good. And then I'm watching the game, and I'm watching Drake May, and Josh Allen is still doing Josh Allen things, but for whatever reason, that New England defense is able to stop them when it matters most. And I'm saying to myself, is New England good? Is New England good? Like, I thought Buffalo was, and I'm like, well, maybe. And then I said to myself, maybe it's not that Buffalo is not as dominantly great as we thought. Maybe it's that New England's better than we thought. And I thought, well, I don't know. We'll see.
Not to toot my own horn, Jink, but that was the team I picked to make the playoffs that nobody was talking about.
But again, is it that they are that good, or is it that Buffalo is not as good as we thought? Remains to be seen, right? Then I'm thinking more about it, and I'm like, well, but then there are other teams in the AFC that obviously are pretty dominant, like Baltimore. And then I stop myself and I go, but Baltimore's 1-4. Lamar Jackson got hurt, and they got blown off the field. Like, weren't even in it. Got blown off the field. Well, but maybe, now that I think about it, maybe Houston's better than we think. I don't know, though. Houston's 2-3. Hell, they're 2 games behind the Colts. Well, you know what? The Chargers. The Chargers are really good. Justin Herbert, they're 3-2. And that's when it dawned on me. We talked to Eddie Garrison at the beginning of the year. I asked, who's the team that we are suddenly going to say halfway through the NFL season, are they good? I said the Raiders, you said the Patriots.
I did.
And guess what? Sometimes the most obvious is right beneath your nose. Believe it right now, and the year can turn, I realize, at any point with injury or other such things. But I'm here to tell you right now, through 5 games, believe it, city of Indianapolis. Believe it, people in Carmel. Believe it, people in Westfield. Believe it, people in Monrovia. Believe it, people in Mooresville. Believe it, people in Beech Grove. Believe it, people in Franklin. And believe it from Whiteland to Whitestown. The best team in the National Football League right now through 5 games may well be the Indianapolis Colts. Because they can beat you in a number of ways. They can score in a number of ways. They can defend, and they've had to dig deep into the pockets. I don't mean for paying. I mean for the lint that comes out of it. They've had to dig deep defensively in their backfield, for example, because they've been depleted by injury. And some of their better players and those that are the more reliable aren't even on the field just yet. But nonetheless, at 4-1, and what they are doing and what they did yesterday, and this is why I emphatically say hats off to the Indianapolis Colts. It's been a long time since we've been able to say this. It's been a long time since we've been able to say when you are a good team, when you are an upper echelon team, dare I say the upper quartile of upper quartiles in the National Football League, when you are a good team, you get the lead in a game and you just absolutely pull away and you humiliate teams. And that's what they did yesterday. That Raiders team may be terrible. They may be they may suck as bad as anybody in the league, but it's the National Football League. You don't see a lot of blowouts. They blew them out of the building. The Raiders went down on possession number 1 and offensively looked efficient, and then that was it. Outside of that, the Colts broke their will and said, we are going to take control of this game. And then you look now, because we have a better idea of who people are. What games concern you? You are now in a position, and we're just now approaching the area of being a third of the way through the season, I realize. But assuming they stay healthy, you always have to give that disclaimer in the National Football League. The Colts, when you look at it and you say they are now the team that you're starting to wonder, where are they going to find losses? Arizona coming up on Sunday, does that worry anybody? Arizona's got A.D. Mitchell problems, right? Arizona can't find they can't find the end zone line, and when they do, they drop the ball at the 1. And yesterday, Arizona actually, they looked like they were kind of in control of that game against a hapless Tennessee team, and then boom, and it just freak plays all over the place. But again, does Arizona worry you coming in here? I did like the all-black Cardinals uniforms. Did you see those?
I did. They were sharp.
Going to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Okay, that seems like a challenge. Okay?
Another injury for the Chargers in that one. Amarian Hampton, their standout rookie running back, left the game in a boot.
They actually put him entirely in a boot? That had to have been a big boot, right?
I know, right?
The Titans. Do the Titans worry you? I mean, come on. Here? No way, right? Then Pittsburgh? Okay. Atlanta? Overseas? I mean, at Kansas City, a challenge. And then you look at it. Houston, Jacksonville twice, Seattle. Seattle's interesting, and I'll tell you why. Yesterday in the National Football League, there was a record-setting day between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in the most aesthetically pleasing game in the National Football League, which was the throwback uniforms of the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And in that game, the other thing that was aesthetic was the quarterback play, believe it or not, between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Two quarterbacks for the first time in league history, I believe, to both eclipse 300 yards in the same game, where both of them threw for an 80% completion percentage or higher in the same game against one another. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, top 2 picks in their respective draft. And guess what? Neither of them doing it for the team that drafted them. Which shows you that, and in Darnold's case, it's been several stops. Same too for Mayfield. Hell, those two were together in Carolina, who's now struggling their way through with Bryce Young, even though they got a win yesterday. But the reality is this. There is a blueprint for the fact that guys, once they get a new lease, once they get away from the stigma and the label and the expectation and the pressure that comes with being a quarterback drafted into a city that is expected to lift that franchise into the promised land forevermore, once they get away from that scrutiny and they can just kind of start out with a little bit of anonymity, then they can finally take hold and show who they are. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing right now in Indianapolis. And the question for another day is going to become, is Daniel Jones the long-term guy? Is Daniel Jones, in fact, the guy that you re-sign now for a 4 to 5 year thing? It would seem as though the answer is going to be yes. And the biggest reason, Eddie, is because he takes care of the football. And when he doesn't, I remember when Andrew Luck was coming out of college, out of Stanford, the big narrative about Andrew Luck, the big talking point was, look at the number of drives where Andrew Luck scores on a drive following an interception. He's a Ted Lasso goldfish. He forgets it, he goes right back out. In Daniel Jones' case, when we've seen him turn the ball over in Los Angeles, it did not derail him from that game. He still was able to get back on course. And then that takes us to my guy, my favorite Colt. I asked the question over the weekend, who's the most popular player? Who is the most popular Colt? And a lot of people were like, Peyton Manning. I'm like, no, sorry, I should have worded that better. Who is the most popular current Indianapolis Colt? And yeah, there was Jonathan Taylor was the runaway winner in this online question that I posed.
I was a little surprised by that.
I was as well.
Just with the way the whole contract situation played out.
Totally agree. Short memories fans have, Eddie.
That's true.
Because he's playing at a very high level, and he's a very personable and likable guy. DeForest Buckner's clearly a great leader. Quentin Nelson is your quintessential, like, football player. Like, when you think of John Facenda's voice and some grainy NFL Films video of a guy in 30-degree weather with the sleeves rolled up and steam coming off of him, it's like
the frozen tundra.
Yes, Quentin Nelson, the quintessential football player, right? That's who you think of. But the guy that should be I want in the next Colts home game when they're playing the Arizona Cardinals, I want people to send me photos. This is my assignment for you. If you already have one or if you are thinking about getting one, I want photos sent to me of a Colts fan in an Ashton Dulin jersey. I love Ashton Dulin. Love him. Because that guy personifies what you want. That guy personifies what the Colts want. That guy personifies what Chris Ballard has claimed. That guy personifies what Shane Steichen has illustrated of what defines a 2025 Indianapolis Colt. Because what has Shane Steichen talked about the most? When Shane Steichen talked about the quarterbacking situation, what he said was that he wanted a quarterback that was operational. It goes beyond what you see on the field. It goes beyond what you see in the huddle. It goes into somebody that is a natural leader, and leadership sometimes comes by example in the form of just simply making sure you are ready when your number is called. And sometimes when your number is called, you least expect it, right? And you don't know what your production is going to be. And sometimes your number is called as a returner. Sometimes it's called as a late fourth down, big play capability guy. Sometimes it's just, blocking at the line. But Ashton Dulin defines what the Colts have been preaching about what they want in terms of operational leadership, understanding from top to bottom, being in the film room, making sure you're on time, going to work. And I don't see any reason why Ashton Dulin should be taken off the field. I look at it this way, and I know we've been told that A.D. Mitchell is a special talent. And I have nothing against A.D. Mitchell as a person. I don't know A.D. Mitchell. And I know that the receiver position is one that typically we have illustration here in Indianapolis. Look no further than the guy that's coaching him, as I've said before, that it takes time sometimes for a receiver to get comfortable, understand the playbook, and have their breakout. And A.D. Mitchell had that breakout seemingly a week ago, and he literally dropped it, literally and figuratively. And then I realized this. Imagine if you love coffee. And imagine if when you get up in the morning, you are craving coffee, but you're in a hurry. You don't have time to sit there and wait for it to brew. You don't have time for it. You got to sit there and you're waiting and you hear the machine doing all that, and you're like, I want my coffee now. You want something that is just right there. You can plug it in and you're good to go. Ashton Dulin is that. Ashton Dulin is there. He is ready at all times. All you've got to do is open him up and let him go. And I'm not saying he's Marvin Harrison, but he's darn good and he's reliable and he doesn't let you down. Which takes us to this. Eddie Garrison, do you happen to have the breaking news sounder? I love Don Fisher's going to join us coming up just about 10 minutes from now. Mike Chappell's going to talk plenty of Colts with us today. We'll get into, at some point, the situation of what took place in downtown Indianapolis this weekend and new changes to that as well and get you updated. But I love the fact that each time we have guests on this show, And as I've mentioned before, I have loved each and every sponsor and partner that we have that interacts with us on the course of this show. But the guest line, and we've had great guest line sponsors as well over the course of the time of doing this show. But I love when things happen authentically and things happen and it is something that, and I love all of the sponsors we have, but this next one, I'm telling you, I love this sponsorship. It is my pleasure to bring for the very first time to the Java House Peel and Pour guest line from ECR, which of course you see his cars with the Java House Splenda and the Peel and Pour sponsorship with it. Ed Carpenter. Ed, I had to have you on as the very first guest on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line.
Well, thank you. And that was a fantastic segue of Ashton doing and Peel and Pour pods that you worked in there.
It's true. It's true. When you listen, no matter what it is, whether you are, let's say you just got done with a workout. Let's say, for example, Ed, I mean, your drivers are working out. They're doing pit fit. They're doing all the things to stay in shape. They're sweating. They need hydration, right? Boom, liquid science right there, immediate Peel and Pour. And people are like, what's the Peel and Pour? I have it right here for those that can see it on the YouTube. This is a Peel and Pour pod for Wrangler Energy, for example, right? You literally peel it right there, you pour it in, and you put it in your water, 8 ounce or 16 ounce, and good to go. And we have it for liquid science hydration, so your after-workout drink or just making sure you're hydrated. We have it for energy, and then it goes without saying all of the coffee as well. And I love, for example, the Colombian. There's also Sumatran. There's Ethiopian, whichever coffee is of your liking. But, Ed, it's the best thing ever. It literally is the best thing ever, and it thrills me to have them on board with us now in sponsorship.
Well, I can confirm for all the listeners that this isn't just a sponsorship that you're pumping here. Jake was one of many people at the racetrack that sampled the product this year, and we've got a pretty long text chain going of him proudly showing me all the Java House products that he's purchased and tried. It's
true.
So this is a very authentic partnership, and I'm almost as excited as Jake about it. It's great.
It is pretty awesome. I mean, I love everything about it. In addition to that, multiple locations around Central Indiana, including one of my favorite things now to do. We did it, over the weekend, and that is to walk down the Monon and then get right there to Broderpool. There's a Java House coffee house right there where you can get all of it. But Ed, I love it, and I love the fact that you kind of helped make the introduction when I told you that I was an enthusiast of the product. So I thought it would be only fitting to have you on. So while I have you here, I've got to simply ask how the offseason's going, and what does exactly Ed Carpenter do in the offseason other than follow the Colts?
I mean, I definitely follow the Colts and excited that the Pacers are going to get going, and Fever had a great season, all the things, but it's kind of a misnomer that the off season is quiet for us racing folks. The IndyCar season is somewhat condensed to work and navigate around the NFL, but off season's busy. We've been really busy. All things working on being better next year. We had a good strong finish to the season, but we left off wanting more, and we've been working hard to make sure that we can make that happen next season. So we'll be on track here next week, testing at the Speedway on the IMS road course. So that'll be our first time on track since the season ended, but we stay busy.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you are busy and you need a little energy, I'm going to show it right here how it works. It's very easy, folks. You see right here the Peel and Pour pod, right? This is the Wrangler Energy. Goes right into your water, and then literally instant. It's like Ashton Doolin. You need it right there, ready to go. And there you have right there, and yeah, you might want to stir it up a little bit. This also works for coffee. It works for the liquid science hydration. JavaHouse.com is the website, JavaHouse.com, and use the code JAKE25, 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 25% off. If you want to text me, I will send you the link. I'm also going to put it up on my social media on Twitter. But when you think about it, once you work in the 25% off discount, Ed, the reality is this is also economical. You've got kids. You're doing, for example, the liquid hydration after practices, soccer practice, basketball, whatever it might be. In the long run, when you put those pods into the bottled water, the economic alone is fabulous because, in the long run, it's saving you tons of money, and it's also awesome.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, all the products are fantastic. I drink mostly just plain black coffee, Their coffee's great. Their flavored coffees are great. Teas. You just showed them the Wrangler Energy, which I don't know that you need all that extra energy.
Come on
but
now.
That's your choice. But yeah, great products, and the pods themselves are fully recyclable too. The lid, the whole thing. I think that's one of the coolest parts relative to like your standard Keurig K-cups. Those aren't really recyclable, so fully recyclable product.
All right, so as Ed had mentioned, racing is always busy in the offseason. So, too, always busy our guest line, but I had to make sure that Ed Carpenter was the first on the Job House Peel and Pour guest line. Ed, we appreciate it. We will talk to you soon, all right?
It's a historic day. Have fun.
It is exactly that. Ed Carpenter joining us on the program. I mentioned the guest line's always busy, and that is true because Don Fisher, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, is going to join us on the other side. Now a top 10 matchup between Indiana and Oregon upcoming.
Game day.
Why not Indiana? College game day going out to Eugene. A lot to be excited about. And I think is Edgewood still unbeaten?
We'll have to find out.
I think they are. Don Fisher joins us next. Sullivan knocked him off on Friday night, 28-21. Edgewood now stands at 5-2 on the season. We mentioned that because Don Fisher, we've mentioned with him before. His son is the coach that's done a heck of a job in turning around that program. And then, of course, the other program, marquee of the area. And the reason that we have Don on is the Indiana Hoosiers now in a top 10 matchup. College game day will be there in Eugene to take on Oregon in what promises to be the biggest game in college football of Don. I don't know about you, but I mean, obviously it's the biggest game of the week, biggest game of the year really for Indiana, but like, I'm ready to go. Let's have them play tomorrow, right? Let's just get out to Eugene and let's go, right?
Yeah, well, after a bye week, you're always chomping at the bit to get going again. That's the biggest thing. And right now, I think everybody kind of feels the same way. I'd love to see this game played today or tonight or tomorrow and not have to wait for another 5 days before we get to see it.
You know, and it's interesting because we have seen now with Indiana football, and obviously a long time before we were able to see this with regularity, but in terms of this is the biggest game of the year, you know, happening multiple times over the course of a season. With Indiana, you know, a year ago, the Ohio State game comes to mind, goes without saying the college football playoff week comes to mind. I'm curious from your observation, in these game weeks or preparation, does Curt Cignetti change approach with his team any more, depending on one game, to get his team up more so than others, so to speak?
No, not in the least, Jake. He just is. He's the same guy, day after day, game after game. He just doesn't change his approach and his philosophy for any reason. And that's one of the things I think why he's successful, because I'm not saying that other coaches do that necessarily, but I don't know. I know his approach is the same day after day, week after week. Get better every practice, and you don't change anything. If you're going to change something because something's wrong, and in his mind, there is nothing wrong with the way they prepare. The only time he would change something in the sense of what he says to his players is if he thinks that they are not understanding that they're not doing it the same way this week as they were last week. And that's when he changes. He doesn't change anything. He just reminds them that that's not the way we do it. And in no uncertain terms, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, and you know, there is such and we've talked about it, Don, obviously. Don Fisher, the voice of the Hoosiers, our guest. And by the way, he is on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Don, there's this confidence about Curt Cignetti that you could say is a swagger, but it does carry over to his team, unquestionably, right? And they are now going into this game with Oregon. And I watched Oregon against Penn State, and one of the things that I really was impressed by with Oregon was late in that game, they had a precision offense in their passing game. They have receivers that if they get them in space, to use that buzzword, they can extend plays. And they had a quarterback that I thought, even under duress, was really precise and accurate and can find where the ball needs to go. What is your impression or I guess analysis of Indiana in terms of their defensive backfield and the challenge that will be presented to them?
Well, it's going to be the toughest test of the year to this point. And I say that not to be quick and smart or any of that kind of thing. It's just a fact. I mean, they haven't played anybody to this level of talent yet this season. And last year, it didn't happen until they played Ohio State. It's happening much earlier this season. And there is no question that Oregon is really well put together. They have a system. They have a philosophy. And you talk about their head coach. He also worked with Nick Saban for a few years and got his first head coaching job because of that opportunity that was presented because of that experience that he had. So you got two guys here that have been tutored under Nick Saban. And I think both of them have basically the same approach. Now, I've seen Lanning in interviews and things like that about what he believes and that kind of thing. it's not far off of what Cignetti believes. And I'm sure they have their differences in how they go about things to some degree, but the program and the philosophy of how you play the game, I think, is probably pretty identical to what these two coaches believe. I think they're very much from the same school of thought and the same beliefs. So what we're going to see, and the one thing you could say about Oregon, they've had success for years now, not just under Lanning, but they had success before that. Indiana and Oregon have played only one time, and to my knowledge, and I haven't looked back at the record book because the only time I know that Indiana ever played Oregon since I've been there was 2000, I think, and 3 or 2002, but it was under Jerry DiNardo. And Indiana won that game at Oregon in Eugene. And they won that ball game because Oregon turned the ball over 7 times. So it's kind of easy to win when you have somebody giving you the football 7 different times in a ball game, taking away their possessions and adding to yours. So at any rate, long story short, this is a program that's been very successful over the years under multiple coaches. And I don't think there's any doubt that Indiana's got to have its hands full in this matchup. But I don't doubt that Indiana's capable. I really believe Indiana's capable of putting off what some people would call a surprise.
Now, Don, I cheated here. I looked it up just as you were saying it. This is the third meeting. The first meeting between the two was in Eugene, I believe, but it was actually a week before the Kennedy assassination, if that tells you how long ago. Oregon won, so they are 1-1 against one another, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in looking at it that way. And Indiana's the last, I believe, Big Ten team, even though they weren't a Big Ten team at the time, to win in Autzen Stadium in Oregon. So there's, this is a place, but to your point, it's been a while since they have played, totally different circumstances. I'm curious of this, and maybe I've asked you this before. Does Cignetti seem to you to be the type of coach, Don, that comes up with different schemes and wrinkles based on what a game necessitates? Or is he more of this is how we're going to play, come and get us?
I guarantee you he will come up with different ideas in regard to the team that he's playing. He's not a guy that's structured that way. He believes that you've got to adapt to what you see. And you've got to be able to do that. And if you don't do that, in other words, I think he feels like he's got the kind of talent that allows him to do that, and number one. And number two, I think he has always adapted to what they need to do and made tweaks based on what that particular team's best at. And then where does he find the weaknesses? And this is my analogy of Curt Cignetti, and not necessarily of his personality or any of those kinds of things, but how he goes about stuff. He tries to find where the weak points are for that particular team that they're about to face. And then he tries to scheme in regard to those weaknesses and those kinds of things. So I think he's really a smart football coach. I think he's really understanding of what he has himself, the talent level that he's got, and what he thinks will work against the particular team that they're going to go up against. And I'm sure that's the approach he's taking against Oregon as well.
Don, when you look at the way things went in Iowa and Indiana getting that game, but won that, and I was listening to you guys when Iowa missed that field goal. I think everybody's thinking like, holy cow, like there's a second lease here almost, if you will. But to be challenged like that and to have to then, and Surratt getting that touchdown, that resolve, did we not see that out of Indiana a year ago, to your point? In other words, was it maybe, even though it was one that was closer than people would have liked, was that perhaps, could we look at that later and say that's the best thing Indiana needed, was to have to show their mettle in that game and dig down? I thought it was impressive, but did we see that a year ago at any point?
No, because they didn't have a game like that a year ago. Some people would say, well, the Michigan game in the second half, Michigan kind of controlled that second half of that contest. I can't disagree with that. However, we didn't see a game like this where it went back and forth, it's tied here. He took a lead there, then it got tied again. And it went back and forth in this ball game. Now, it wasn't dramatic in that context because it was a low-scoring ball game. But the fact of the matter is, I wanted to see Indiana, how they would deal with the adversity in a ball game where they were still in it, but they were behind. Could they come back? Could they make a game out of it if it got away from them? It didn't get away from them in any way in that contest. But the fact of the matter is, Iowa made it tough on Indiana for the full 60 minutes of that football game. And Indiana was able to resolve themselves, to get back into it, to be resilient every time that they got behind. And they made the plays at the end that made the difference. And we had not seen that last year. They were within a touchdown. They actually was tied against Ohio State almost going into halftime. And you'll remember what happened. The ball got snapped back to Indiana's punter, and he fumbled the snap, dropped the ball down at the 7-yard line at Ohio State. The Buckeyes take over, score a touchdown, take all the momentum out of Indiana's hands and put it in their side, and it was 14-7 at halftime, Ohio State. And from that point forward, Indiana really kind of struggled for quite a bit of the second half. They kind of fought back a little bit, but it was just, you knew the game was out of hand at that point, or they weren't going to be able to come back and win it. And the same thing kind of happened in the Notre Dame game as well, the other loss they had.
Yeah, the big run.
To have a game like that last week, in my opinion, probably helped this team's mental frame of mind more than anything that's happened up to this point this year.
Lastly, Don Fisher, our guest, voice of the Hoosiers, Indiana and Oregon, going to be a 3:30 kick coming up on Saturday. You can hear it right here on this radio station. Don, somebody asked me this, and I don't know if you would know this or not, but for fans that are planning for either the Michigan State game or UCLA, that's the next two home games after Oregon, what point in the week do they usually announce start times? Is it usually 1 week before, basically, that people can then start to plan on what time to head down?
Yeah, it's basically boils down to what television wants to dictate. And you won't know in any of the games that are TBA, any of the games that are to be determined time-wise, you're not going to hear until probably 6-7 days before the game itself.
Don, we look forward to it coming up. Oregon and Indiana on Saturday, the big one, the marquee game in college football. And can you believe that we haven't even gotten into basketball yet? But that won't be long before we start chatting hoops. But right now, when you're ranked 7th in the country in football, Don, it's all about the gridiron, baby.
It is. There's no question about that. And that makes me happy because for years it's been totally the opposite.
You're used to guys in September asking you about who's shooting the ball well from the outside, right?
Exactly.
All right, Don, we appreciate it as always.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Don Fisher, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us on the program. We come back. 5 words to describe the Colts to this point. We will get back into, and for that matter, the rest of the show, we will get heavy into the Colts. Ball State had a big win. We'll talk about that in 45 minutes with their head coach. But we come back, 5 words about the Colts yesterday and your thoughts on where they are. A couple of really good ones. I'll read them for you next. Whether you are listening to my voice right now, maybe you're listening online and you are listening in Pueblo, Colorado, Bryan, Ohio, where our friend Mo is. Maybe you're listening to my voice in Terre Haute. Maybe you're listening to it in, as we mentioned earlier, Ellettsville, Logansport, Lagodi. No matter where it is that you're listening right now, listen to what I'm about to say. Right now, through 5 games of the 2025 NFL season, and there is still plenty of football to play, but through 5 games, the Indianapolis Colts are arguably the best team in the NFL. And I know you can say the potential of somebody else. Buffalo, offensively, and Josh Allen is better than Indianapolis. Okay. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, we know what he can do. They're better than Indianapolis. Okay. The Rams already beat them, Jake. Okay. But right now, when you look at the totality and the complete nature in which the Colts are winning games, you can make the argument that they are the best team in the National Football League. And when you look at the upcoming schedule, no more are you looking for places where they can get a win. You're actually looking for places where are they going to be tested. Yes, sir, Eddie, with the breaking news.
Spencer Schrader out for the rest of the year, tore, quote, multiple ligaments in his knee yesterday.
So the Colts will get into the free agency wire. A lot of people yesterday, and this is how you could tell. We already had seen over the course of the weekend. Over the course of the weekend, we already had the lesson from everybody on the importance of not spouting off before knowing the totality of a situation. Right? And yesterday, the Colts, late in the game, are going for 2, and people are like, what in the world is Indianapolis doing? What happened? There's zero reason why they should be going for 2 when they've got this huge lead. And it's like their place kicker is out. And yes, Rigoberto Sanchez was a kicker in college. But he's the holder. Now, this makes – I will admit this, that this, to me, it doesn't seem well thought out. Rigoberto Sanchez when Spencer Schrader is kicking extra points or field goals, Rigoberto Sanchez is the holder, okay? Luke Rhodes is the guy snapping to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Rigoberto Sanchez has to then move to kicker, Luke Rhodes becomes the holder.
No.
Who's the holder?
Ogletree.
No, Ogletree becomes the emergency long snapper.
I thought on the morning show they were saying Ogletree becomes the holder.
No, I believe that Luke Rhodes is the backup holder and Ogletree becomes the backup long snapper. That's the issue. The issue is within that. I looked that up, but I'm 90% certain that that's correct. Rhodes becomes, I believe, the holder, right? And then Ogletree is the immediate long snapper, and that's the issue where you have like the breakdown.
Yeah, you're right. I misinterpreted.
Yeah. So therefore, it seems though if you're long snap, because long snapping is the one thing that's the most specified of all, right? Long snapper is the one that seemingly is the hardest to replicate. So you would think that once somebody becomes your long snapper, it's like you are in no way, shape, or form leaving this position. You are the long snapper, period. Holder seems like one that you could – I mean, hell, Stephen Holder could probably be your holder, right? I'm not taking away from Rigoberto Sanchez. But it seems as though that's the one that would be the easiest to find a replication. So that didn't seem well thought out because now you don't have – I mean, Ogletree can be your long snapper, but that's a specified situation. But here are some of the best 5-word entrants. I asked the question yesterday. Tell me in 5 words or fewer – your thoughts through 5 games on the Colts 2025 season. Now, Nate, I'll give him credit. I'll give Nate credit. Nate's 5 words. Win, 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 loss, win. Okay, yes, that is correct. That is technically correct. This from Reds Nation, spoken truly like a Reds fan. Nice start, but cautiously pessimistic. Megan, one of our 29 female listeners. Jones has rediscovered the temple. True. Indiana Jones, man. Right? This from Brian. Are we paying, are we paying, now this is 6 words though. Are we paying DJ $200 million? He's going to get a deal probably.
We're not paying him $200 million, Jake. That's for sure.
Sean Hall,
We don't have
Danny
that kind of
Dimes
budget.
plus defense. Finally, better than expected. I don't understand this from Brian. Preaching accountability only when convenient. Not sure exactly what that means. But Sweetie Pie on the Expos Twitter, the best team in the league. And Julie says, great leadership makes a difference. Jeff points out, beating the teams they should. I don't disagree with that, but as I mentioned off the top, beating the teams you should is one thing, but then realizing in beating those teams that you should beat into submission, breaking their will, pulling away, doing it in dominant fashion, throwing to linemen, having your tight end throw, getting 3 scores out of your running back, getting block punts, getting a special teams touchdown even though it was called back due to a flag that was on the top, totally opposite end of the field, having guys step up like an Ashton Doolin, who I love, and I want to see Ashton Doolin jerseys at the games. Having all of those things, that's beyond beating the teams that you should beat. That is in all actuality being a good team that you are expected now when you go into those games to not just win, but win convincingly, and they did exactly that. Mike Chappell, WXIN, Fox 59, CBS 4, joins us next. 3 items of news or notes since the show began. One taking place just before the show began. Mark Sanchez, we have not gotten into that, partially because I don't know what can be said about that situation that has not already been said 100 times. But the charges against the former quarterback Mark Sanchez, who was in town as an analyst for the Fox television broadcast for the Colts-Raiders game and was involved in the assault in downtown Indianapolis, charge now upgraded to a level 5 felony of assault resulting in serious bodily injury, I believe is the proper legal terminology there. So Mark Sanchez now facing what would then be, if convicted and given maximum penalty, a 1 to 6 year sentence. Of course, that all a lot to be ironed out there, but there is that bit of news. The second, Spencer Schrader, as we just mentioned, the kicker for the Colts, now will be out for the season with that knee injury that he suffered yesterday in the win, the big win over the Raiders. And third, the guest line in which you hear our guests is now the Java House Peel and Pour guest line, and I am a huge fan every single morning. And listen, I should have mentioned this earlier. I have never liked coffee, ever. And then Java House gave me a sample during an IndyCar weekend. I ultimately got around to trying it, and I was like, holy cow. It's super easy to do because it's the Peel and Pour pods. You just put it in water, and it's good to go. And they call it amazingly smooth. It is exactly that. And then I found out that it was developed by people who themselves didn't like coffee, and that's why they came up with this particular way of doing it. And I absolutely love Java House, and so therefore I'm thrilled to have them on board. You use the code at javahouse.com, Jake25, for 25% off your first order for the Peel and Pour pods to be shipped to you in Wrangler Energy. So energy drink right there mixed with water. Also the Liquid Science Hydration. So your post-workout, perfect for the kids in particular because basically what you're getting is it in bulk, and then you do the numbers and you're like, this is way, way, way financially smarter. Again, javahouse.com, Jake25 is the code. It also is on my Twitter account, and if you want to text me, I will happily send you the link where you can place an order, and I promise you, you will be thrilled with the product. Joining us now on the program, he is with WXIN Fox 59 and as well CBS 4, Mike Chappell, the Dean of Writers for the Colts. Mike, been a long time since we have seen a performance as commanding yesterday as Indianapolis. I thought the thing that really jumped out was the totality with which they won that game yesterday. I know that defensively they gave up a little bit on that first drive, but I thought after that it looked as balanced as any game we've seen from the Colts, for a while. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you always hear about, coaches harp on 3 phases, and sometimes we roll our eyes. But, you get a block punt from Alubi, and they just played well. And that's what, again, I keep repeating myself. But what has impressed me the most now through 4-1, which hopefully you've noticed, they are now the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yes.
Which is really, let's see a show, like I put out there, let's see a show of hands, and everybody's lying. So, but that's what's crazy is they're just not doing anything like, oh man, look at these throws Jones is making. How are they? They're just executing, and that's stuff that's sustainable. You've got to make. They want to, and we're able to make a statement of accountability with A.D. Mitchell. They virtually made him a healthy and active until the last series. And Ashton Doolin steps up, and Doolin embodies everything that Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen value.
It's exactly what I said off the top. Yeah, totally. Right? Organizationally, right? Right. And then to be able to give him the chance to play more, because he's normally done something when given the chance on offense. This time he was out there for 40 plays, whatever it was. But it hopefully sent a message to a uber talented second-year receiver who there's something missing right now. There just is.
But yeah, the totality of it, again, it's just they're not doing anything crazy great. They're just doing a lot of stuff crazy good. And that's the kind of thing that, well, why shouldn't it continue? Why can't Jones complete 71%? And Taylor, I thought Taylor was, for the first, he was 7 carries, 8 yards. And then they got it going. So and the defense, when you're missing Kenny Moore like that and to play like that, I like what they're doing. And we've talked from the start that the first half of the season is conducive to, 6-2, 7-2. And then who knows? We always thought that in the second half of the schedule should be tougher, but you don't know. You just don't know. So the key thing is when you play crappy teams, beat them.
Right.
Beat them up.
And they're not one of them, right? And that's the key thing is they're not one of them.
They're not one of the not one of those homecoming teams you want,
look,
right?
I'll put both of us in this category, right? As to not throw stones at other people, I will put both of us in this category. How did we miss this? What were we? What did they unveil? What did Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen pull out of a hat that none of us saw coming? How did everyone miss on the fact that, yes, it is just 5 games. I get it, but it seems to be a trend. How did we miss on the fact that this is a complete football team?
Well, I'm not going to totally put myself in that category because I've said that they could go 6-2 if they got competent quarterback play, and they've gotten more than that. And the key to all of this, because we all kind of agreed that this is a pretty good roster. It just is. Offensive line, defensive line, secondary until it got ravaged by injuries. The skill group, but it all depended on the quarterback. And this all goes back to Shane Steichen taking Daniel Jones over Richardson. And this is after there's probably tape. I wasn't in favor of it. I thought they had to find out what they had with Richardson, and apparently they knew what they had on Richardson. We're not going to spend time piling on AR right now. Not after that great catch he had yesterday, but they just saw something in Jones. The operational, the fine completions, and getting the right play, get out of the bad play, and that's what they wanted. They're getting an occasional explosive play. Doolin had a couple of deep catches yesterday, but they were 8 of 10 on third down yesterday. 8 of 10. It's hard to lose games like that. No turnovers. So they saw what they needed, and we were. I'll put myself in the category of I was looking further ahead. Well, what are you gonna do next year? What's the future gonna be? They didn't care. I remember Chris Ballard told us when he brought Jones in is, do you feel pressure or urgency to start Richardson? Even with Jones, he said, I want the quarterback who helps us win games now. And that's what they've got in Jones to this point. And again, I don't know why what he's doing doesn't carry forward. So it's surprising the level of efficiency. 6 straight touchdowns on drives yesterday. It's crazy.
What would you?
Now, some of them were short field, but still.
Chap, what would you assume that they eventually believe A.D. Mitchell can do that Ashton Doolin cannot?
Well, Mitchell's a much more talented receiver. He just is.
But when will he show it?
Well, at some point. What was it, Denny Green? They are who they were type of thing. At some point, that's who you are, and that's where we'll come up. At some point, I'd like to know what happened on the one target to Mitchell with Richardson, where Mitchell broke it off or ran a curl and Richardson threw deep. I don't know. Reggie Wayne didn't appear to want to hear Mitchell's explanation. I don't, and that's all stuff you read from body language. But I don't know. No, and the problem that Mitchell is going to have, and this is of his own creation, is he's going to get less reps. I don't know that they're going to continue with Ashton Doolin that many because you hope to get Pierce back this week. But when when Michael Pittman gets 50 plays and and 10 targets, you can have a bonehead play. You can drop the ball. When you're getting 10 plays and 2 targets, you can't afford to screw up. You just can't. So that's the corner he's boxed himself into. And I don't know how long you go. It's way too soon to give up on a guy that has this much talent. It's kind of funny. We were talking to DeForest Buckner last week about that, and he said, man, that was such a great play, and there was just that small mistake at the end. Well, yeah, but it was a fumble. It was a touchback, so not so small. But that's one of the best catches and runs you're going to see. It just was. But so I don't know. Too soon. But again, his problem was, barring injury, his opportunities are going to be minimal, and you got to make every one of them count. And that's hard to do in the best of situations. And now you're going to sort of, at some level, you've got to feel the pressure that, oh man, it's coming to me this time, and I got to make a play. That's hard, but that's kind of where he's put himself.
Chap, do you believe that there is more that can be introduced by Shane Steichen in terms of their offense, or have we now seen kind of a glimpse of everything in the arsenal?
No, he's got to be sitting at home at night, Mondays, just thinking home. And a lot of it goes back to Tyler Warren. I mean, we've seen, he throws a pass yesterday, and then he catches his first touchdown. So there's more. I'm waiting for that when Warren lines up at fullback and takes a hand up, and he fakes it, and then throws a little pop pass over the middle. There's more there, and that's why Steichen, we're going to see. Now, I hope he doesn't go crazy with some of this, like that double pass in Denver last year. Let's not see that again. But when you've got a player and players like Tyler Warren, you can do so much. And I would like to think that, people would think maybe we've seen everything from him, but we haven't. But that's what's, people were getting upset last year with Steichen. Well, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Well, you don't have the personnel to do this or that. You were so hamstrung by not having a tight end who allowed you to throw the ball down the field, who allowed you to line him with fullback and all that stuff. So no, it's you just hope. And Shane Steichen's a really smart guy. He really is. You just hope that you don't say, how about this one? And you're thinking, probably not. But they try it. But it's really amazing and interesting how many ways they've run things and had guys open. I mean, how many times have we seen teams play the Colts and this guy's wide open? Well, now we're seeing the Colts in that. And I'm still waiting for Josh Downs to go off. He's been good. Every time he makes a play, it's like 8 yards on 3rd and 7 because he makes that little jab step and then
Boy, he had one move yesterday there down. It was in the red zone when he did that spin to get it. They needed a first down, and he gets the extra 3 or 4 yards out of it, and boom, right? And you say to yourself, that's why that guy's out there, right? That's what he brings to the table.
Was it yesterday where they had him open deep and the overthrowing? My games are getting mixed up, but we haven't seen that day where he's had 10 targets, 8 catches, and 130 a touchdown, and it will come. It will come when they get Mitchell or when they get Pierce back. He's going to make those 2 or 3 plays. So. That knock on wood, whatever wood you can find, that Jonathan Taylor stays healthy, because I think nationally people are seeing how good he has been. It's almost like they're saying, "Boy, this guy's pretty good." Well, he's been pretty damn good. Doggone it! And I don't need to be his publicist, but I see all these. Somebody put out after 4 games, they're all pro team. Colts had nobody on it, and this is the mother hen where you say, "What are you talking about?" No Quentin Nelson. And no Jonathan Taylor, and they had like 2 running backs. I'm thinking, what game are you guys watching? So that's what's kind of encouraging, because there's still so much more for Jonathan Taylor to do.
Jeff, what is their deficiency? I mean, at this point through, if you were to look at it, what is the area that if you were to look back at the end of the year and say, okay, through 5 games, the one area that I thought might be a bugaboo for them is blank, what would it be?
linebacker. It's again. We talked about this earlier. If there were like 8 things that they had to do in the off season, linebacker was one of them, and that's the only one that they didn't get done. And I was fine with that because they took care of the other 7 that were more pressing. But yeah, you got Zaire Franklin, and then just somebody else, and they need to get maybe when Carlisle comes off of IR, and who knows when that's going to be. But that's a stretch because he didn't play. He didn't play a ton last year as a rookie. So linebacker, I think Joe Bashi has. The more he plays, the more you see, and he's a really good player in his role. But the more guys play, backups play in the starter's role, you see, that's why he was a backup. And I don't mean that to be a slam on him, but I guess it sort of is. But that's the one area, and there's not much you can do now. It's kind of like with Spencer Schrader. We'll go out and sign somebody. Well, these guys are out there. You know who the guys that are out there now? Xavier and Howard. Those are the guys. Right. Now Mike Hilton's different because he's pretty good. He was out there for a reason, whatever. Maybe a little too old, I don't know. But doggone, there's just we were talking in the press box last night about there's no kickers are us. You just can't go down in aisle 4 and get your kicker. Although Stephen Holder mentioned that there are some decent kickers. There's more decent kickers out there than there are decent left tackles or wide receivers or safeties. So you've got that. But again, and kickers are people, God love them, that coaches.
You could have just stopped there. Kickers are people. Let's not forget. They are people.
Well, yeah,
right?
but they're also the people that coaches get rid of with the drop of a hat. So in that regard, there's 3 or 4 guys and their names escape me: Zane Gonzalez and there's Blankenship, which I don't think.
How about Michael Badgley? Michael Badgley's been here twice before. He probably still has a place here, right?
Yeah, at least he wouldn't need to do GPS. He would know his way around.
That's right.
But that's the point. And it's just a damn shame for Schrader to have that, because he was in the midst of a great season. I mean, I missed one field goal. I think it was a 50-some-yarder at Tennessee or whatever. And he's a good kid, and that's not he's just a good kid, but kids, living in Westfield. So it's just too bad. But they'll find the guy, and I guess if you score 40 points and you go for 2 because you don't care about kicking extra points, you don't miss a kicker that much. But we know that there's going to be these one-possession games, and you got to make your field goals. And I hope they get a guy that is reliable enough to make the kicks when he has to make them.
There is a guy out there that is reliable, chap, but he's got 5 more weeks of suspension, and Justin Tucker, he's out there, and I know fans are going to be like, hey, he's available, first ballot Hall of Fame kicker, but he's already got 5 weeks on suspension.
I would not go near that, chap. Your thoughts?
But he was awful last year. He didn't kick well last year for him. So, but no, that would be. No, they wouldn't. There's got to be options A, B, C through F. More than that, they'll get a guy. They'll have kickoffs today, tomorrow, and they've one thing that I know from the start from talking to Jim Irsay and in the Tony Dungy days is when you enter a season, you've got a list of positions and available free agents that you update every day, every week. So that when the guy goes down, you don't have to say, God, who's out there. You just look at your list. They've got a list of 10 guys at every position, and in their minds, they know who would be their best option, and they'll bring them in and see if they were right on this guy, that guy at this position. So they know in their mind who they want, I'm sure. And because you have to, because that's your job. You almost, as a GM, you almost have to, and it would drive you crazy, you almost have to expect bad things to happen so you're prepared for them. But they know who they want. They'll bring him and somebody else in and have him kick 10, 15 kicks, and then they'll sign the guy Tuesday or Wednesday.
Justin Tucker, by the way, I was thinking that he had legal problems. Was he ever actually charged with anything?
I don't think so. Might be Yeah, it was alleged. I don't know that there's any, like you said, civil. They're certainly not criminal. So yeah, I don't know, but
initially there were allegations of him with sexual misconduct during massage sessions, in which
it's Deshaun Watson part
correct, and so he had come out saying that he, issued a statement of his innocence, but the NFL investigated it, and the NFL investigation led to him being suspended for essentially half a season. So, you can draw from that what you would like. There's no doubt he has been one of the best kickers in NFL history.
Chap, no, you're not lobbying for that move, are you?
No, that's what I said. I would not go. I would not do that.
I wouldn't touch it at all. No, neither would I. Nope.
Let me ask you this, Chap. Yesterday after the game, and just in the press box in general, and I'm not making light of this. Actually, I'm being serious. Which would you say was the more dominant conversation amongst the media in the press box or after the game? How good the Colts are, or how bad the situation was with Mark Sanchez?
Yeah, the second one. The second one, because that's part of who we are in the media. We're a bunch of people in Mayberry sitting around with Aunt B talking about what's going on in the town. But no, that's. I mean, I just don't understand. And it's gotten worse and worse. I mean, every day, he's been charged with a felony, is it?
Correct. Level 5 felony, correct.
Our Angela Gano's been all over this, and she's really good at what she does. But I just don't understand when you're sort of somebody, and you're in town, another town to do your job. Go out and have a dinner. Go out and have a couple drinks. But I don't, from everything I read, how do you get to the level to where you're so out of control? I don't get it.
And who knows what we may learn out of all of it, right?
Right.
I think, Chap, the thing that, and this is all I'll say about it, to quote Forrest Gump, but I think you'll agree with me here, okay? We have entered ourselves now into this world where everybody has to be, Woodward and Bernstein broke the Watergate story, right?
Right.
And they were like the last two people really to break a story, because now we live in a world where even if you are the first one to report something, great, that means that you are the one now that is being retweeted or reposted, and then another person gets it, and by cycle 3, which takes 2.5 minutes, no one remembers who the first was, right?
Right.
People have lost sight of the importance of being accurate versus being immediate. And we saw a lot of people get burnt by that over the weekend. And here's the thing. Both things can be true. It can be true that Mark Sanchez was the aggressor, and we will later find out what exactly took place, or what, from toxicology or whatever else.
Right.
And at the same time, we can also say that there is an unfortunate deterioration or pattern within the inner quadrant of Indianapolis that would lead people to draw the worst of conclusions about the fact that Mark Sanchez was victimized as a guest of this city. And so both things can be true, which is why it was important to responsibly wait out before we find out what was happening to make a false conclusion or a false jump, which we saw a ton of. But it was a huge topic yesterday, and then the topic became that there's video out, and the video is apparently mind-blowing, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know, right? What I do know is that Mark Sanchez with a level 5 felony, and one would assume, I don't know, that perhaps his television career would be in jeopardy, but we shall see. He has bigger things to worry about at this point.
This is such a forgiving country. It is. I mean, think of all the things that Tiger Woods and all this that people have done, and people forgive them. And that's the same in media with the Marv Alberts and all these guys, Brent Musburger and all this. But when you're down the food chain on stuff like that, I think Sanchez is okay as an announcer.
Well, that's it. He's in a very fungible position, and the reality is
there's somebody waiting.
Correct. I mean, Ryan Lindley or whatever, right? I mean, there are a ton of good to slightly above average quarterbacks that are good to slightly above average analysts. He's a nice looking guy. People say he's a nice guy. I've never met the guy, but yes, unfortunately,
I'm getting on the elevator yesterday to go up to the game, and Brady Quinn's in the elevator. And I didn't because I've got some, I almost said, so what were you going to do today?
Right.
But that's what it is. I mean, there's somebody else waiting,
of course,
for you to screw up at some level.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so I don't want to pile on that.
One of the Heward brothers is on standby right there, easy, right?
Rod Heward's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Sorgi could come in, any number of things for sure.
Yes.
But,
so yeah, I hope it. I don't hope for bad things from Mark Sanchez, but it did not help when the family released the photos.
Correct.
Of the 69-year-old man that just got he just been beaten up. I mean, and slashed. So yeah, it was very much prevalent. And then the more the game got out of hand, then you start talking more about that.
Yeah, big topic.
But unfortunate. All I'd say is when you're out of town and working, go out and have a beer, and then go back to your room and just be quiet. That's it.
All right, Chap will monitor that story, obviously, and then the Colts getting set for the Arizona Cardinals, trying to go 5-1 on the year, and believe it, in fact, right now, as it stands, if the playoffs began today, which they do not, the Colts would be the number 1 seed, but we will keep an eye on
and have the first round off.
That's right. All right, Chap, we appreciate the time as always.
Be well, guys.
All right, Mike Chappell joining us on the program. We come back. It was a big week in football, not just for the Colts, but elsewhere around the state. I'll let you know what I'm talking about, and we'll talk to somebody involved in that next. So chirp, chirp. Here's the good news and bad news, okay? Over the weekend on Saturday, and it was fabulous, German Fest out in front of the Athenaeum. And I'm with Lindsay Monroe, who's a Ball State Cardinal, and I'm emceeing the Wiener Dog races, the Dachshund Dash, as they call it, which is fabulous. Congratulations to Thor, the overall winner. Set a new track record, by the way, 2.44 seconds on his dash.
New track
I actually did the Tom
record.
Carnegie as well, right? And so I'm announcing college football scores during it. And at one point I said, like, Ball State was down. I think at that point it was 14-0. And then later, a couple of guys that were sitting in the front row, Alec and William, like they go nuts. And they're like, chirp, chirp, Ball State gets the win. And so I announced that, and everybody goes crazy. And so I'm thinking this is awesome because we're going to have Coach on Monday. And then I said, Eddie, I am super stoked. We've got the Ball State football coach on, and people were excited at the Dachshund Dash. And you said, well, that's great, but he wants to blow you crap. And I said, well, what did I do? And so he joins us now on the Java House, by the way, Peel and Pour guest line. He is the head football coach of the Ball State Cardinals now. 1-0 in the MAC. Mike Uremovich joins us. Coach, how are you?
Doing good. Getting ready for Western Michigan.
Okay, so I got to know what it is to begin with that I did wrong. Eddie said
you were gracious enough to have me on when I was hired here at the new staff. And I'm a huge Indy 500 fan. I've been going for 30 years. And so I sent you a message this year before the race. I said, I'm camping out for 3 days if you want to stop by, and crickets.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So,
true story. And I listen to your show, so I know everybody involved is enjoying this more than I am right now.
So if you don't mind me asking, and I apologize because I would have been all over that. When exactly did you send it?
On Wednesday. I give you plenty of time to make your way over. Even though I live in Indy now, I still camp out for 3 days at the track. My wife's like, you still got to camp? I said, yeah, that's part of the experience.
Well, no question. Now, was it Wednesday of race week?
It was the Wednesday prior to the race.
Yeah, and I apologize.
Yeah. No problem.
Here's the thing. I would have been all over that. I just probably didn't see it. I mean, I shouldn't say probably. I didn't see it because I would have absolutely been all over that. So
we'll have you come by this year. We cook a pig on Saturday every year. All my coaches go. Bunch of my former players. It's a great event.
Okay, I awesome. Totally apologize for that. Right, totally apologize. But I love the enthusiasm. And listen, let's talk about what took place because, not only did you get a big win in the MAC, and I thought about this. What I like about Ball State football, and you tell me if there's an element of truth to this, you go into MAC play and you're going against a team in Ohio that's, a stout MAC team, and you can look at the numerical record and say, well, Ball State got out to a slow start, but you tested yourself. You went out and you tested yourself, and you're playing, when you go to an Auburn, I mean, that's different than not. You went out there and you tested yourself, and I thought you saw the fruits of that once you get into league play. Is there some truth to there were positives that could come out of a negative at the beginning of the year?
There definitely is. And I've coached in the MAC before, and then this is what a lot of the MAC schools, have to go through. You go play some Power 4 schools, and then you get into conference play. And I tell everybody the thing I love about the MAC is from top to bottom, it's the most competitive conference in the country. It's the most level conference in the country from what each institution is spending on their staff and their coaches and their budgets. It's really, really close from the top to the bottom. So you got a chance to make a difference as a coach and develop your players. You look at the Big Ten of the SEC, what some of those top schools are committing to football and what the bottoms are. It's not even like the same conference. Our situation in the MAC is everybody's about the same. So you get the chance to go out and compete. The positive of that is you got an opportunity to win every Saturday, but you can also lose every Saturday because every game's tight in the MAC, and it's really fun to coach, and I know our players enjoy playing in it.
When you go into that game against Ohio and you're down, you're going into the final quarter, you're down 14-10, what did, from a coaching standpoint, was it a matter of something that was said and done or maybe even schematically that allowed you in the fourth quarter to pull that out, or was it just simply you had to use the old coach's term of trust the process and trust your guys?
I honestly believe our kids gained confidence as the game went on. Ohio won the MAC last year, and our defense played lights out for 4 quarters. Our offense didn't get going to the second half. But, we bring the team up after the third quarter, and I just said, guys, look at the scoreboard. Go win it in the fourth quarter. You're right here. We've talked about fourth quarters all off season, and this is why we train. And they went out and did it. And it was great to see the offense get the ball back with an opportunity to go win it and score a touchdown. And then great to see the defense get a stop. So, it's really nice, obviously, when the stuff that you focus on and preach, happens in the fourth quarter. But now we got to move on, and we got a really tough opponent this Saturday.
Are you a different team in terms of the way you play than you sought out to be when you first got the job and first gathered together? Did you have to make adjustment based on just kind of the roster and what you saw you had?
I think that every coach is constantly trying to maximize their best players. So we will be different as the season goes on, and we should learn our team from week to week. And in football, you got to deal with injuries and different schemes and who you're playing and all that. But you should be improving every week as a team, which is our ultimate goal, is to keep getting better. But what we do and how we do it offensively and defensively, obviously you learn more and more about your team and what your guys are good at as the season goes on. I don't think you can say this is our playbook for the year or these are the guys that are going to play. We had some guys play this week that earned their way on the field during the bye week in the practices that we had. They performed so well in practice. They hadn't played much going into Saturday, but they showed in practice that they should be out there on the field.
By the way, you mentioned the schedule and the fact that now that you're in league play, it gets tough. Western Michigan, I believe, is next.
Yep.
Brock Lowry, pretty darn good quarterback for them, isn't he? I mean, he is. He looks like one that can kind of beat you two ways.
He's super talented. He's their leading rusher as well. He's a very physical runner. He doesn't run like a quarterback. He runs like a tailback. He's downhill, falling forward. They have a very talented tailback. They're good on the offensive line. They're in the top 5 in the country in sacks. They've won 3 games in a row. They're the hottest team in the MAC right now. They're playing really, really good football, and we get to go up there and play them on their homecoming, so it'll be a good environment.
Wait, did you say you camped from Wednesday to Sunday for the race?
Yeah, I got to make sure I'm early and got everything squared away.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Now, how rudimentary is this camping process? I mean, are you one of these guys that are you going RV? You going actually pitching a tent?
When I first started going in high school, I slept in the back of my truck. But now I've moved up to an RV because I bring my boys out there. And we used to stay out in the Coke lot. Now I've graduated to that lot that's kind of right across from the, where they park all the buses and the gravel lot.
Yeah,
right
it's
there
the gated community of the Coke lot, as Derek Schultz says.
Yeah. I'm not in there anymore. I got my boys, and our defense coordinator goes with us every year with his boys, and then we have people stop by. But we've moved up to a camper now. But I spent a lot of nights in tents and the bed of my truck when I was younger.
And then you sit where for the race?
Well, we move around. The last couple of years, I've been outside of turn 1, which is pretty good seats.
Yeah, that's a long hike from your campsite, though, right?
Yeah, that's all right. We make the boys carry the coolers because they're young. They're in high school and in college, so me and Jeff just walk.
That is beautiful. It's unlike anything. I mean, there's just no way to explain. Like if you're on vacation or you're on a recruiting trip or whatever, and you're talking to a kid's dad, and you're talking about it, if they're not from here, there's just no way to explain everything that goes into it, right?
No, you can't. It's a great. Even people who don't know anything about racing, they come to the event and they want to keep coming back because everybody's there to have a good time. I love the patriotic element of it because obviously I love our country, and it's a great weekend, and it's an opportunity for me as a coach. It's a great time of year for us. Spring ball's over. Recruiting is just getting over with for May. Camp start in June, so it's the one week of the year that I take off and really try to just get away from everything.
I mean, listen, I love it, obviously. And apparently during the week, the only thing that I get away from is checking my messages on social media. So my apologies, right?
I'm kind of glad it happened now. We got something good to make fun of you for.
I guess. Akron, the next home game for you guys, right? That's going to be coming up a week from Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, 3:30 up there, right?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, plenty of opportunity for folks to get up, see some MAC football. Again, getting a win over Ohio, 2014, the Ball State Cardinals on the road against Western Michigan coming up this week. Coach, appreciate the time as always. We wish you the best of luck, all right?
Thanks. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, much appreciated. Mike Uremovich, the head coach. And, by the way, apparently my midweek host at the Indianapolis 500-mile race leading up to next year's running. And, Coach, joining us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. That announcement earlier today, javahouse.com, the website. I'm going to repeat it again. If I would love for all of you to try the Java House Peel and Pour, whether you're talking about the Wrangler Energy or the Liquid Science Hydration. So think about if your kids, how much you're spending going out and buying like the hydration drinks. Literally, the value way to do it, 25% off, Jake25 is the code. You can do a bundle. You can get the coffee peel and pour pods. You can do that hot, or I drink it at room temperature, personally. You just literally peel the pod right there into the water, instant beverage. They have an energy drink, as I mentioned, the Wrangler Energy. You can do a pod. You can do a bundle for all of them. I would love for you folks to give it a try, and I promise you're going to love it. JavaHouse.com. Code is Jake25. Or if you simply message me right now, if you text me at my telephone number, I think most of you have my phone number, I will happily send you the link, and we would be thrilled to get you on board. I do drink each and every day. Java House, love it. And their coffee houses just have a clean look. I love the clean nature of it. It's just a good vibe. It's good vibe all the way around. Eddie, you're doing a helicopter look. Speaking of looks, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know what that means, Jake, based off the last two segments.
You get me talking about Java House, and then I just want to keep talking about it because I love it.
Trust me, I would love to join you in the conversation.
I also love the fact the Colts are 4-1. Are they the best team in the National Football League? A couple of news and notes from yesterday, and we'll let you hear from them. We'll do it next. Shane Steichen, Ashton Doolin, Daniel Jones, among those you will hear from coming up about 8 minutes from now as we recap yesterday and what took place at Lucas Oil Stadium between the Colts and the Raiders, and a resounding win for the Colts. And I guess simply because it is a major, major topic of discussion, I will go ahead and weigh in, as we did earlier, on the Mark Sanchez situation. At this point, I don't know what opinions or things can be said about it that have not already been expressed, partially because we don't know still the totality until we have seen video. And it is possible that since we have been on the air, that video has been publicized, would be news to me. But I think invariably and inevitably surveillance video will be seen. It would be unfair and, in my opinion, irresponsible of me to say definitively what it was that took place. Simply to say this: the immediate reaction to the news of the TMZ headline simply saying Mark Sanchez was stabbed in Indianapolis. You know, I was down at German Fest on Saturday morning getting ready for the Dachshund. And if you were down at the Anthonyum for German Fest, it is really one of my favorite events of the year. I just love everything about it. So many people just having a good time and having fun, and, you know, doing the Lindsay Monroe and I doing the Dachshund Dash Wiener Dog races, which is just so much fun because everybody has a good time with it. And, you know, we build it up like it's this major sporting event. It's a lot of fun. But the word was going around and getting out, and I had been texted very early in the morning. I got up on Saturday morning and got a text from somebody saying, like, hey, something happened last night, and we're hearing it was Mark Sanchez. And I'm like, really? And I thought, oh, that would make sense. He's in for the game. All of it to say this: there was a lot of immediate reaction to the news about Mark Sanchez. And I love Indianapolis. I love it. I think everybody knows that. And I have a tremendous pride in our city. And I loved, one of the most surreal moments of my life was walking around during the Super Bowl and seeing all of this in downtown, because I'm old enough to remember when they hadn't yet built Circle Center and you had all this basically vacant space. And it does make me sad that in elements of downtown now that vacant space has returned. And I know that they are redoing Circle Center, and hopefully that will become, again, a vibrant epicenter. And there are areas of downtown that are fantastic. I love Mass Ave. I love Fountain Square. And I still like the quadrant that we are in. And while it is unfair and probably irresponsible for many people, as soon as they saw the headline of Mark Sanchez being involved in a stabbing in downtown Indianapolis, it is unfair and unfortunate that people immediately jumped to conclusions about what it was that took place. But at the same time, as somebody who loves this city dearly and promotes and advocates for this city tirelessly, there also is the element of truth to the fact that while I can condemn the irresponsibility of those immediate public conclusive reaction and conclusionary statements before we knew the overall facts, the reality is that there has been enough precedent in downtown Indianapolis to justify that sort of immediate thought. It's just taking it from immediate thought to public conclusion are two different things. But there is still a lot of work to do in this town. And one thing that I have not seen said, not saying it hasn't been said, but that I will say, I don't know the name of this gentleman, the 69-year-old man that was the other half of the Mark Sanchez story. I don't know who that is. I only know what I have read in the report, and that is that he was working that evening when the altercation began, and I hope the best for his recovery and for his family in this town as well. Mark Sanchez today, the charges against him upgraded now to include a level 5 felony of assault resulting in serious bodily injury. As for what the Colts had to say about what took place on the field yesterday, some really good stuff. We'll play it for you next.
Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Jones out of the gun, empty set, three receivers stacked to the right side. Jones looks left initially, throws that way to Warren inside the 5, stretching for the pylon. Touchdown! Tyler Warren, his first receiving score in the NFL. Under center goes Jones, and they give it to Taylor, sweeping out. He's around the 5, crashes in, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor.
Best back in the league right now. Credit to him, credit to the O-line. You know, that first one, obviously Q pulling around there. And then the other one we scored down in there tight.
Out of the gun goes Jones, sweeping left. Taylor cuts back at the 5 into the end zone. He dances in again. 3 of them today. 3 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor.
We had a little pulling center on with Bort, and Bort opened up the hole right there. It was a great job by the O-line, and he stretched and cut that thing back up in there. So it's everybody. It's everybody. It starts up front with those guys, but he's just seeing it well. He's running, hard, patient, great vision, great burst, and he hits the home runs.
Taylor in motion to the right. Jones backs to pass. Late blitz. Jones flushed out of the pocket right. Throws into the end zone. Yes, touchdown, Michael Pittman Jr. What a catch.
I thought it was great complementary football, back and forth, all 3 phases. Shea getting the punt block there was huge, getting the takeaways by Mackay. Latu, obviously Grover getting the tip there was huge, and then scoring, 6 times, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns by the offense. It was just great to see. I think everyone got involved.
That's how it sounded yesterday as the Colts were dominant over the Las Vegas Raiders. And they are right now, believe it, they're one of the best teams in the National Football League. And it comes from a number of different ways and a number of different reasons why that is the case. But as I was watching that game yesterday, and you heard it right there, Matt Taylor on the call for the Colts Radio Network, Shane Steichen talking about it afterwards, good teams, when they play bad teams, don't play with their food. Good teams, when they get in games they're supposed to win, they are resoundant in the fact that they are going to win the game. It's never in doubt. And excluding the first drive, perhaps, when the Raiders went down the field, excluding that first drive, that game was never in doubt. It was never in doubt. And you know what? I've been as critical of Chris Ballard probably as anybody, and at times I think the guy's acted arrogant and almost unwarranted in terms of his pompous nature. But give him his flowers. That team is, right now, it appears as though, and when everybody kept asking about the quarterback situation and the fact that he swung and missed on Anthony Richardson, and yes, I'm here to say he swung and missed on Anthony Richardson, but he built a roster that with a competent quarterback is a good roster that can win games. And in addition to that, they don't have a competent quarterback. They've got a good one. Yesterday in the National Football League, there was a record-setting game. I'm sitting there, and I'm getting ready to watch the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. And in talking about that game, they said, coming up next, we've got a record-setting performance today in the NFL. And I thought, oh, wow, what's this? 2 quarterbacks, both for the first time in league history, threw for over 300 yards in the same game while completing 80% of their passes each. I thought, oh, wow. Well, that's got to be what Allen – well, it can't be Allen because he's in this game tonight, and it can't be Mahomes. I think they play tomorrow night. I can't wait to – who are they talking about? Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, both of which were teammates in Carolina, and now are finding themselves comfortable and at home in Tampa and Seattle, respectively. Point being, one time the number 1 and 2 quarterback taken in the NFL – and in the same draft class, and having big games in offensive showdowns with a place that allowed for it to naturally and organically grow elsewhere and then come to them and be ready to go. And That's what you're seeing, I think, with Daniel Jones. He took his lumps. He had to learn things. He was in New York where there was not a good situation around him, and he organically had to grow through that, progress, learn from it, and in addition to that, just get away from it. And he comes to Indianapolis now, and guess what? Danny Dimes can play. And Shane Steichen is drawing up plays that allow him to play. And they have weapons all over the place. Josh Downs and Jonathan Taylor with 3 touchdowns yesterday. You heard Matt Taylor mention it right there. No relation, by the way. Mention it right there. You have Tyler Warren. And that was a heck of a catch Tyler Warren made, by the way, on that touchdown for his first career touchdown reception. You've got Warren passing the ball. You're utilizing and you're doing different things. You're getting special teams play, not just in blocking a punt, but also in returning a kick for a touchdown. And that was called back, I realize, but that comes from Ashton Dulin, who I thought was the story of the game yesterday. I thought Ashton Dulin was the story of the game. You know, I mentioned earlier, our new sponsor for the guest line, Java House, and the Peel and Pour Pods, which I love. Because there's 2 ways that you can prepare a beverage. In the case of coffee, for example, you can put it in the coffee maker and you got to sit there and wait, and then you hear it, you can smell it, and you hear it percolating, and it takes forever, and the machine's making noise, whatever. Or you can just go and get a Peel and Pour Pod from Java House. You peel it, you put it in water, coffee. Warm or cold. I drink at room temperature. Cold, hot, whichever way you want it. And it goes without saying the liquid hydration and the Wrangler Energy as well. But that instantaneous peel and pour nature of it, that's Ashton Dulin. The Colts need big play production. Ashton Dulin, put him in, ready to go. Ready to go. As opposed to A.D. Mitchell, who we sit and we continue to wait. And I know that A.D. Mitchell, we've been told about his overall athleticism and how he is the better receiver than Dulin. Is he? Because Ashton Dulin yesterday was a big play guy, not once but twice, and on multiple occasions each time that Daniel Jones needed it. Josh Downs was big as well. But I love the story of Ashton Dulin because I think what we see from Ashton Dulin is we are seeing now that the things that Shane Steichen has preached, the things that Chris Ballard has preached, are represented in what we saw yesterday from Ashton Dulin. Ashton Dulin is a guy that does whatever's asked of him. Ashton Dulin's a guy that makes plays when his number is called, and he doesn't know when his number is going to be called next. But we'll get to that in a second. It all added up into the perfect science, the perfect ingredients for a dominant win. And afterwards, Shane Steichen talked about just winning in dominant fashion, not eking out, but beating the teams you're supposed to beat and being in control of the game the entire time.
All things take time, you know what I mean? I think as you're building a program, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and I think, we got some new faces in here. I think Chris has done a hell of a job with that. Daniel's playing at a high level, and guys are just believing in each other and believing in the process of what we're doing. It's been really good.
And again, those players, yes, they went out and they addressed it. They finally said, you know what, we got to go out now in free agency and shore up areas in our defensive backfield and shore up in the quarterback area and create competition for Anthony Richardson. And then when Daniel Jones got that job, when Daniel Jones was announced the starter, Shane Steichen talked all the time to anybody that would listen about the importance of having a guy that goes through the process of doing everything right from the beginning. Showing up to every meeting on time. Showing up to the film sessions and being studious. Commanding the locker room all the way into the huddle. Talking with guys at lunch. I'm not saying that one player did it and one player didn't. But It's one thing to talk that kind of thing. It's another one to start rewarding it. I want you to listen to a couple of things here. First off, yesterday, in the fact that Ashton Doolin got his opportunity with a message sent to A.D. Mitchell, and what Shane Steichen had to say after the game about Ashton Doolin.
Told you guys AD's got to earn it, and so that was a situation where Doolin was going to start at X and play most of the game, and if we needed AD in a situation, we would have to use him, and, we played him there at the end.
Okay, now, that was the situation in the decision in starting him. Then what he saw from Ashton Doolin and what Shane Steichen liked about what he was able to do.
He's as gritty as they come. He's as tough as they come, and he does anything that's asked, and he understands his role. I go over roles and opportunities to start the season, and I go through every player, and I say, yeah, you're our special teams ace, and you're going to go cover kicks, and when you get your opportunity on offense, go make the most of it. And today, obviously, he got a hell of an opportunity and played a ton on offense and made some big-time plays, caught a big in cut there, and then obviously there in the fourth quarter, threw the go ball to him, went up and made a hell of a play. So hats off to him. Just a tremendous worker is what he is.
Okay. There are little nuggets in there that tell you beyond just the situation with Ashton Doolin. There's a message there to the rest of the locker room that clearly has been delivered. And players are starting to carry out that mantra without even realizing it. For example, Daniel Jones, who came in and at least from the outside observation, just went in and each day went about his task and got that job as the starter and is now playing at a high level. Yesterday, the guy in, I believe, receiving yards that led him in terms of where he was going with the ball was Ashton Doolin. Here, and listen to what he says here, because there's something interesting that jumped out at me. Daniel Jones on the play of Ashton Doolin.
I think he's just a really good football player, kind of in all aspects of the game. Obviously, he's one of the best guys in the league in the special teams game and all the things he does there. And then, as a receiver, he's been incredible. I mean, in camp, I played a lot with him, rotating in there, and he's just a really, really good football player. He's always going to be in the right spot, makes a tough catch. He's got tremendous speed and strength. That last catch, you saw him go up and make a really tough contested play, but just a really good football player, smart, always going to be in the right spot, tough, makes a play.
Okay, in camp, I worked with him a lot. Always in the right spot. Works hard on every play. Now, you could say, well, Jake, he just means in camp they line up and they sit there and they throw the ball around. No. No, what that means is, I guarantee you what that means. And I'm not saying A.D. Mitchell didn't do this, okay? I'm not saying Anthony Richardson's never done this. What I'm saying is what you saw yesterday was a quarterback who had won that job because he bought into and delivered on the non-X's and O's things that his coach had preached by just going about and doing his business every day and going about his business by doing his job. Beyond just the spreadsheet that he's got to turn in to the accounting office. He's doing all the little things. And it carries over into him having a trust of his teammate because he then carries that forward to asking and expecting the same out of somebody he's working with in camp. You think there's any coincidence that Ashton Doolin is probably a guy after practices that was throwing with Daniel Jones to get timing down, to allow Daniel Jones to get the right touch, to feel the right way? That's the guy that he feels comfortable with because that's the guy that he's working. And I'm not saying he didn't do it with other guys. But Ashton Doolin represents everything that you would want out of your team. A guy that I've never once heard publicly say that he needs more reps. I've never once heard publicly say that he felt snubbed. I've never once heard him say, look, I know I'm a great special teams player, but I need more. I need to do more. He just waited his turn. His number was called, and he delivered. And I said earlier today, I'm hopeful this Sunday when the Colts take on the Arizona Cardinals, I'm hopeful that what I see is somebody sending me photos of somebody in the crowd wearing an Ashton Dulin jersey. Because, yes, I know Jonathan Taylor is one of the best backs in the league. Yes, I know DeForest Buckner is a great defensive player and a great leader. Yes, I know that Tyler Warren is quickly emerging as the most popular Colt and is literally just like a 50s throwback, do-everything football player. I love all those guys.
Old school freaking baller.
Totally. I love all those guys, right? But if you truly are a fan of a team, then what you want is the message, the example set by Ashton Dulin. And there's one guy in Indianapolis that they're hoping sees that message, and it's A.D. Mitchell. But I'm under the school of thought of, why do you need A.D. Mitchell to come back now? I mean, I'm not saying to never play again, but I'm saying continue to roll out Ashton Dulin as your main rep guy, and then until he, for whatever reason, shows that he can't continue to deliver.
What was the most random jersey you saw this weekend on Sunday?
Okay, that's such a good question. Because I always look. Now, are we talking Raiders and Colts or just Colts jersey? Just Colts, right?
Raiders or Colts.
Anthony Gonzalez.
I saw a Howie Long jersey.
See, that's the thing. I've always said you know your franchise is in the dumps when you're wearing the jersey of a legendary player from 25 years ago.
Also
right?
saw a Darren McFadden jersey.
Okay, that's pretty tough to beat. I mean, there's a guy that used to wear a Matt Booza jersey, but then then you're getting into, like, are you just wearing it because it's hipster cool? You know what I mean? Like
Charles Woodson.
You always see some hipster in a bar. You walk into a bar and there's some hipster walking around and he's got on like a Jason Williams jersey from like the Kings, and you're like, okay, I get it. He has no idea who Jason Williams is, but he just knows it's an old jersey.
A random NFL of a current player I saw of somebody walking around going to Lucas Oil on Sunday after Pacers fan jam, Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty random.
Saw one of him. I saw Pat Surtain II of Denver in a CeeDee Lamb jersey.
I mean, I could go to a Pacer game in a Bismack Biyombo jersey probably, right?
That's right.
You know why he's my favorite player?
Because his name's Bismack Biyombo.
Correct. He just keeps sticking around, right? He's like the Ashton Dulin of the NBA. He does the right things. Then I was watching the Patriots-Bills game, and I'm watching this game, and I'm seeing, New England, and Drake May looks pretty competent, and Buffalo was, Josh Allen's a special player, and at one point he threw the ball into the stands, and the guy caught it and then ran out of the stadium, and that was cool. But as I'm watching it, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Buffalo is this team that this is the fait accompli. It's going to be Buffalo and Kansas City in the AFC title game. Their offense is special. Josh Allen's elite. And I'm like, wait a minute, though. Like, New England's kind of hanging around. Maybe New England's better than I thought. Maybe Buffalo's not as good as we thought. Well, but then you've got other teams that balance it out, like the Chargers. The Chargers have 2 losses. Well, but I mean, Kansas City. Kansas City's got a pair of losses. Yeah, but Jake, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's hurt, but Baltimore got blown off the field against Houston. And then I realize there's so much parity in the NFL that maybe the only true way to know and measure and gauge just how good a team is if that team has the combination of the maturity, the mindset, and, of course, the health to go into games that they're supposed to win, and not just win, but beat teams into a submission of the fact that by the fourth quarter, you're able to just run clock out and put in backups. And it's been a long time in this town since we've seen that. A long time. Hell, Peyton Manning still wouldn't come out of the game. But it's been a long time since we've seen that out of a team. And that's what we saw yesterday. We saw a Colts team yesterday that got control of the game and then never let go of it. And were resounding and did it in multiple ways. Flexed muscle from multiple angles from multiple players. And then you begin to look at the schedule and you're like, wait a minute. I was under the anticipation through 5 games that what we'd be doing is looking at the Colts schedule, trying to figure out where the wins were going to come from. And instead, I think we're in a position of looking at the schedule, and it feels like the Andrew Luck rookie year with the every ball bouncing their way season. And it feels like the hey, Hard Knocks is actually going to be following the Colts, and they're going to be coming in and recording Mark and Kevin and myself on the morning show at The Fan because the Colts are an upper echelon team, and their game against New England is going to be like powder keg level excitement. It feels like that kind of a year. It feels like that kind of a year that's a special year. And believe me when I tell you, I know we're only 5 weeks in. I know it. I get it. I understand it. There's 12 games left to play. Lots can happen. We've seen teams that get out to starts where they're 6-0 and you think this is the greatest team of all time, and they limp their way into the wild card round and get beat. We've seen it. We've seen teams that start out 2-4, and then all of a sudden everybody gets healthy, and before you know it, they're a force to be reckoned with once the weather turns cold. I get it. But believe me when I tell you this right now through 5 weeks, the Indianapolis Colts may be the best team in the National Football League right now. Right now. Who's better? Because you look at who they played, and yes, they should be 5-0. But they kind of got gifted with Denver, so it balances itself out there, right? But look at the schedule. Eddie, I'm going to right now, and I know that this is the most tired exercise in football, but I'm right now going to list off the games, and I want you to simply tell me, Eddie Garrison, off the top of your head, win or loss. Just win or loss, okay? Based on everything we've seen right now, okay?
Okay, quickly here, Shane Steichen confirming ACL and MCL injury for Spencer Schrader. He'll be out for the rest of the season.
Arizona Cardinals at home.
That's an easy win.
Okay. Chargers in L.A.
Oh, man. Loss.
Tennessee at home.
Win.
Pittsburgh on the road.
Win.
Atlanta overseas.
Win.
At Kansas City.
Loss.
Houston at home.
Win.
At Jacksonville.
Loss.
Seattle at home.
That's on the road. Loss.
Excuse me, Seattle on the road.
Loss.
Interesting. Okay. San Francisco at home.
Win.
Jacksonville at home.
Win.
At Houston.
Win.
Okay, so you've got them right there. You got 8 more wins coming from them. Boom, 12-5. You take it, right? Kicking situation's interesting because yesterday there was a lot of, and again, there were 2 storylines where you look at it and you go, probably should get all the information before you make a comment of some sort of a definitive statement. The first was the Sanchez situation. We addressed that earlier. The other was the Colts kicking situation. Yeah, it looks weird to see a team that is way ahead of the opponent going for 2. But Spencer Schrader gets hurt early. Rigoberto Sanchez is your backup place kicker. He does the kickoffs. He kicked in college. He can kick field goals. However, problem is this. Their long snapper is Luke Rhodes. Luke Rhodes, in a regular situation, Spencer Schrader is your kicker. Rigoberto Sanchez is your holder. Luke Rhodes is your snapper. Now Rigoberto Sanchez would be your place kicker. And guess who your backup holder is? Luke Rhodes. Drew Ogletree is your emergency long snapper. Luke Rhodes is the holder. Sanchez becomes the kicker. In that situation, it was the long snapper. And that's one of the most specified positions in football. You would think that once Luke Rhodes gets the position and secures it at long snap, that then the quest is on to find a backup holder. It almost seems like an oversight that you would have to move the guy that is your long snapper to be your backup holder because then everything goes FUBAR. So now they're in a position where they're going to go and presumably find themselves a kicker out there. Matt Prater may be available. You know, I mentioned Michael Badgley, who's been here twice, may be available. You know, there's a lot of guys where you can go around and find it. It's like fantasy football where you're just going around and you're like, gosh, who's out there now? But what the Colts did yesterday was let the rest of the country know. Number 1 seed right now in the AFC if the playoffs began today. Guess what? They don't. So that's irrelevant. But way above our expectation. We sold him short. Matt Verderame, national writer, NFL. We'll see if he concurs. We'll ask him when he joins us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line next. Fact, believe it, the Colts are 4-1. And assuming they stay healthy, seems as though they are in very good position, even though it is so early in the year. And I get it. But I wanted to get the perspective just on whether or not we're showing a bias or whether or not they, in fact, are legitimately good. So who better to bring on to the program? Joining us now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line, he is with Sports Illustrated. He's a return guest of the program, Matt Verderame. Matt, I will simply ask you that question. The Colts, in your opinion, good, very good, or great?
Very good. Very good. I mean, they're second in yards per play. They are fourth in yardage. They are second in points. Defensively, they're good. I don't think they're great defensively. They're good defensively, and that's fine. Like when you're playing offense the way they're playing, Taylor's running the heck out of the ball. I did my all-pro teams at the quarter pole before this weekend, and Daniel Jones was second team. And I think right now part of that is, look, he's playing above expectations and all that. Is he the second best quarterback in football? No. But to this point, he's been excellent. He's done everything they could have ever expected and then some. Taylor was my number one back. He's been, I think, the best back in the NFL. The offensive line is doing its part, and the receivers are doing theirs, and Warren's been awesome. I think Warren, look, last year Brock Bowers was an all-pro tight end as a rookie. Warren might be this year. So I think the Colts are a very good team who there's going to be people nationally who say, oh, like 3 of their 4 wins, look who they've been against. That's fine. They've pounded those teams. It'd be one thing if they were winning those games 21-20. They're not. They're winning those games the way a really good team would win those games, which is just blowing those teams out. So the Colts, listen, they've got to keep doing it. But right now, yeah, I think you'd have to be super impressive.
It's interesting because let's begin with this. At the beginning of the year, I remember asking you just before the season began, and you were dead on when I said, who's a team that has the feel to be one that could just completely be a dumpster fire and unravel before our very eyes? And you said Miami. And then week 1 came around, and I thought to myself, Verderame is a genius. This team looks completely lost, right? But is Indianapolis, be it good or bad either way, is Indianapolis the biggest surprise for you?
Yes. Well, they're the biggest surprise in a positive way. Miami, as you point out, and I'm far from a genius, but it's not surprising to me because I thought they'd be terrible, and they are. The Ravens are the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah.
In terms of now, look, part of that is they're insanely beat up, but they weren't insanely beat up until this past weekend. Like they went to Kansas City and they were favored in that game. They were 2.5 points favored in Arrowhead, and got their teeth kicked in. And they were healthy on offense. They were missing a few guys on defense. They had everybody in that game offensively. And they got crushed. And I understand, you're not going to beat the Texans when you're missing, 100 guys. I get it. They didn't even show up. I mean, that's a home game, and they just laid down in that thing. So, for me, the 2 biggest surprises are in the AFC. Baltimore looks like a complete dog. And Indianapolis, look around the conference. Okay, Buffalo in Kansas City, you respect them in the sense that they're always there. You got the quarterback, they're going to be there. After that, show me a team better than Indianapolis. Who is it? Who's the team? Like I wrote about this in my column yesterday at SI, the good, bad, and ugly. Like who's better than them? It's not the Chargers. I don't think it's Denver. Is it Pittsburgh? I don't think so. Like is it somebody in the South? I don't think it is. Like, who's the team? So if I'm the Colts, I'm sitting there going, look, we can go on a nice run here in this conference, and who knows, maybe even shock gold. But there's nobody outside of Buffalo and Kansas City that I'd sit there and go, oh, yeah, I would definitely pick that team over Indy in a playoff game.
I'll tell you a team that's intriguing to me, Matt, and I don't think they're as good as Indianapolis, but I'm curious your thoughts on them because I just don't know. This is the one team that I'm still like, I don't know which the real version is going to stand up here, and that's Jacksonville. They've started to show a little bit more competency, but is that fool's gold? Or can Jacksonville be one that keeps within range of the Colts for the totality of the season?
I think Jacksonville is about a 500 team. Look, I like Liam Cohen. I think he's done a nice job. The problem with Jacksonville right now that I see is 2-pronged. One is Lawrence has not been good. In fact, Lawrence has been downright bad. And they've survived it because they've forced 13 takeaways in 4 games. And yet, even with that, they needed a punt return to beat the 49ers. They needed a Houston team that, outside of playing Baltimore, can't score a point to lose 17-10 the game. They had 3 takeaways. They're +2 in the takeaway margin. And that's, to me, the very interesting thing with Jacksonville tonight. Like, they're an underdog at home to Kansas City. It doesn't sound like Trayvon Walker's going to play. Kansas City is going to play man coverage, and they are going to blitz the daylights out of Lawrence in this game. They are just going to bring everybody. They're not going to care. They're going to single up everybody because they can with their corners. And the interesting thing tonight is if Jacksonville can't turn Kansas City over, can they win? Or is it one of these things where if they don't get a bunch of extra possessions and a bunch of good field position, then the bloom kind of falls off the rose? I was actually looking at this thing. So Jacksonville's number 1 in terms of the best turnover differential. Here's a stat that is unbelievable, but it's true. The Chiefs have not lost a game in which they've won the turnover battle since week 6 of 2019. They are 38-0, including the playoffs, when they win the turnover battle since that game. So Jacksonville's got to win it tonight, because if they don't, historically speaking, they'll be 3-2, and all of a sudden you look at them and you say they got Seattle coming in, and you know what happens moving forward.
I'll tell you what, Matt. I've been, admittedly, I'm a Clemson fan, right? So I saw Lawrence play every game in college. I've mentioned this on the air 100 times. He, to me, was a slam dunk Peyton Manning reincarnation. I'm like, this guy is the guy. And, I mean, I get it. It's still on the tarmac as an NFL player. And I don't know. Is it injury? Is it didn't have enough supporting cast early? Is it quarterbacks need more time to develop and they just didn't build around him? Or, in fact, was he just thrown to Sunday receivers in college and it led us to believe he's better than he is?
No, listen, I mean, I'm with you in this sense. I'm not a Clemson fan, but I watched him a ton in college, and I thought he'd be, the next Hall of Fame type of quarterback coming out, can't miss, all that stuff. I think part of it was his first year he played for Urban Meyer, who is one of the worst head coaches I've ever seen at the NFL level. His entire rookie year was basically watching his coach act like a clown. And then they had to get Doug Peterson in there, and that started out well. They went to the playoffs. They won a playoff game. And then they were 8-3 the following year, and Lawrence got hurt. They missed the playoffs. They fell apart. Then last year, there were more injuries. I think it's a combination of things. Then you look at them this year. Brian Thomas Jr., who was awesome as a rookie, has done nothing. Travis Hunter, offensively, has done very, very little. Their offense right now is Travis Etienne. And if you can curtail Etienne, that's kind of it. I think Lawrence, the talent is there. The problem I have with Lawrence, and frankly it surprises me with him, he'll make 3 or 4 unbelievable throws in a game, but he just misses easy throws.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, yeah.
He'll miss a half dozen throws a game. Like, how do you miss that? Like, that guy's wide open, man. Just lay it in there for 15 yards. And that is something that you wonder, if he had been developed better early in his career, would that not be a problem?
Matt, do you believe – Matt Verderame is our guest from SI. He is on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Do you believe that we will see in the next, let's say between now and the end of next season, if Daniel Jones is healthy, do you believe that Anthony Richardson will at any point accumulate still a total of 6 starts in the NFL?
Not in Indy. I mean, I think if Jones continues to play like this, if you're the Colts, you're not letting that guy out of the building. You kidding? I mean, you've been waiting, and I get it. Look, I understand, because even I feel this way. There's a part of you that says it's Daniel Jones. He was a bust in New York, and you're really going to believe in it. But at the same point, we have seen this time and again when guys, especially guys who were high draft picks, have gotten out of a place where it didn't work. They get somewhere else. They find the right system, the right coach, and all of a sudden it starts to work. Baker Mayfield is a great example.
Darnold, yesterday's game between Mayfield and Darnold, yeah.
Those two guys. And it's happened even before. Look, Rich Gannon was a guy years ago who bounced around, became an MVP. Kerry Collins was a guy who had success later on in his career at the Giants, go to the Super Bowl. I mean, there are a lot of examples of it. You look at Jones, and I think if you're the Colts, you say, listen, you know what? He doesn't turn the ball over. He is accurate. He's got some mobility. He's still in his 20s. And if you've got Anthony Richardson sitting there, maybe you deal him. Maybe you deal him for a pick and say, you know what? We take the L on this one. It happens. It's just, look, if you're the Colts, if Jones ends up being anywhere near as good as he's been the first 5 games, it's fine. You move on. You live with it. You thank your lucky stars you found the guy, and you keep moving. But I think it's really hard at this point, if Jones is healthy, to see any real world where Anthony Richardson's getting back on the field in the near or even somewhat distant future.
Matt Verderame is our guest, SI. Matt, you're working on what in terms of articles still upcoming that we can find from you?
Well, this week is my quarterback rankings. I'll do them somewhat quarterly, about every 4 weeks is the first one. Friday, preview file for the 5 best games of the week. I'm going down. It's not going to be coming out anytime soon, but I'm going down to interview Joe Namath tomorrow for a magazine piece that I hope people will check out. It's coming out in the December issue. So a ton of stuff. I got columns up in the Dolphins, the Ravens. I wrote about the Colts yesterday in my good, bad, and ugly column. There's plenty. There's plenty. I'm certainly busy this time of year.
Have you had encounter with Joe Namath before?
Yes, I've interviewed him multiple times over the phone. This is the first time down in person.
I mean, that's pretty cool, right? He was at an IndyCar race in Alabama a couple years ago and was actually a super nice guy, to be honest with you.
About the nicest guy you can meet. Yeah.
Totally.
Super nice guy. He's going to have to deal with me asking him questions about the Super Bowl for hours on end. But, we can find me. What the heck, Palm Beach. It's hard to really complain about going down there. It's not the worst assignment I've ever had in my career. So
let's just say that clearly at this point, he's one of the nicer of the ex-Jets quarterbacks. We've learned that much, right?
You've really learned that in Indy.
I'll
tell you that's one of those stories that started out, you're like, wow, and then as it developed, wow. What happened?
It had a pretty serious 180, and a lot of people probably that wish they would have waited that one out, right?
I've learned over the years, don't tweet, because you might think something's really obvious, and then it turns out 9 times out of 100 it probably is. But that one time that it's not, then you're on awful announcing and freezing cold takes and all the rest of it for the rest of the time. It's not worth the tweet. Don't do it.
That is true. Matt, appreciate it as always, man.
Hey, you got it. Anytime.
All right, Matt Verderame, our guest on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Again, I would love for you folks to try out Java House, by the way, in the Peel and Pour pods. You're going to hear me talking about them plenty. But you use my name, Jake25, you get 25% off. And I'm guaranteeing that you will love it. Absolutely love it, because it's easy and it is awesome, amazingly smooth. Not only coffee, but just the economic value of and these are the two aspects of it that I really want people to try out. The Wrangler energy drink as well as the Liquid Science hydration drink. Those are the two for certain. If you have any curiosity about it, you want to try it out, you want to take a look at it, send me a text. I will send you the link where you can find out more. We'll come back. We'll do the crossover brought to you by the good folks at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. 317-353-2141 for Love Heating and Air. John, we will hand it off to him, and we'll do it next. JMV is up on the north side. Is that correct, Eddie?
Yes, Twin Peaks.
He is at Twin Peaks, in the Castleton area. Plenty of time for you to get up and enjoy his broadcast, where he will be between now and 6 o'clock. It is time for the crossover, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website, 317-353-2141. John, plenty to talk about, and that game yesterday, that's what good teams do. They got a lead,
yes.
And you and I looked at each other and we're like, this thing's over, right?
Yeah, it was. I was talking to Hagan last night on 59 about that, and I said, there are various gauges, I think, especially if you're a prove-it-to-everybody type of team that the Colts clearly started out the season and still are in that mode right now. Just like the Rams game, Jake, where that was arguably their toughest competition on the road. They lost, but they did themselves in. This was also a gauge on how you bounce back from something like that and how you take care of, as you mentioned, a team at home that is absolutely ready, willing, and able. They were gift wrapped to be taken care of in that fashion, and the Colts went out there and did the job that they absolutely had to do, and then some.
I just, John, it's been so long since there has been a Colts team where once they get a lead, you think to yourself, okay, I'm good with this now, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I thought the Raiders looked pretty good on that first drive, and then after that, it was like, what? It was over, right?
Tell me this. I don't know if anybody has asked this question. Do you think that Daniel Jones has made Shane Steichen a better coach, a better offensive coach, or has Shane Steichen made Daniel Jones a better quarterback?
I think the first, because I think Shane Steichen is more conscientious of the way he's calling a game now, because he wanted to be able to utilize, and maybe at first he felt like there was a little more of a governor there. And so he was, and also I think he had the pressure on him, John, of justifying his decision of going with Daniel Jones. And so he had to make sure that he was pushing all the right buttons, and that was forcing him to be more conscientious in the way he was going about things, right? But it's symbiotic for certain. I mean, there's no question, because also Jones is benefiting from what Steichen's able to come up with for him.
So what'd you think about the weekend in local social media? How outstanding was that?
Listen, like I said earlier, the last two people to break a story were Woodward and Bernstein. So just relax, let it play itself out, and then react, right? I mean, that's what we know.
There's nothing. It was like, to me, it was like a cross between Jerry Springer and an episode of Jackass. This weekend. Because I just sat back and relaxed and watched the nut shots. I just watched every one of them, too, and they're all self-inflicted by those that should know better, that really, once you let them loose in social media, just kind of, what do? They transform into dumbasses? It was hilarious. Hilariously stupid is what it was.
The door was opened and plenty of people ran through it. Yeah. All right, John, you'll be out there beginning here in just a couple minutes. We'll throw it out to you, Twin Peaks. I know a ton of fun. And we will throw it to you in just a couple of minutes. John will carry you home for the rest of the way. And I appreciate not only Mike Chappell, Don Fisher joining us on the program, Java House as well for being on board with us. And I appreciate all of you for listening to Query & Company.